They pushed the pregnant waitress down the stairs for being slow, unaware her husband was a mafia boss. The stairs came at me fast, too fast. One moment I was balancing a tray of espresso cups, my swollen belly bumping the edge as I turned toward table 7. The next, hands shoved hard against my shoulder blades, and gravity claimed me. I didn't scream. There wasn't time. My body twisted instinctively, arms wrapping around my stomach as the world tilted. The tray clattered first, porcelain exploding across marble steps. Then came the impact, my hip, my elbow, my shoulder slamming against each unforgiving edge as I tumbled down. Down into the elegant lobby of Cielo Rosso, the upscale Italian restaurant where I'd worked doubles for the past 6 months. When I finally stopped moving, I lay crumpled at the bottom like a discarded coat. Pain radiated through every nerve, but all I could think was, the baby. The baby. The baby. Oh my God, she's so slow. A woman's voice dripped with disgust from above. I asked for my wine 10 minutes ago. This is what happens when you hire trash. Through the haze of agony, I recognized her. Valentina Russo, daughter of some minor real estate mogul, always demanding the best table, the coldest champagne, the fastest service. She stood at the top of the stairs in her blood-red Louboutin, manicured hand still extended from the shove, her face twisted in theatrical annoyance rather than horror. Her companion, equally dripping in designer labels, tittered nervously. Val, maybe we should what? It's not my fault she can't walk properly. Valentina flipped her dark hair over her shoulder. Someone get the manager. I'm not paying for this disaster of a meal. I tried to speak, to tell them I was 7 months pregnant, that something felt terribly wrong, that warm liquid was pooling beneath me, but my voice came out as a wounded gasp. The restaurant manager, Paolo, rushed over, not to me, but to the base of the stairs, already apologizing upward to Valentina. Signora Russo, please let me comp your entire evening. Elena, Maria, my only real friend here, dropped to her knees beside me, her server's apron still tied around her waist. Her hands hovered over me, afraid to touch. Don't move, Cara. Don't move. Someone call an ambulance. But Paolo was still focused on damage control with Valentina, who had descended the stairs now, stepping carefully around the spreading pool of blood. So much blood. My baby, I finally managed to whisper, tasting copper. Maria, my baby. Shh, she's going to be fine. You're both going to be fine. But Maria's eyes were wet with tears she couldn't hide. Where's your phone? We need to call Lorenzo. Lorenzo, my husband of 8 months. The man I'd married in a quiet courthouse ceremony, who kissed my forehead every morning before dawn and came home smelling of expensive cologne, and something darker I never asked about. The man who'd made me promise, made me swear, that I would call him immediately if anything ever went wrong. Purse, I gasped. Locker room. Maria sprinted away, shouting for someone to call 911, leaving me alone on the cold marble with Valentina's voice still complaining above about her ruined evening. The pain was changing now, sharpening into something visceral and terrifying. Contractions. Far too early. I pressed both hands to my belly, feeling for movement, for any sign that my daughter was still fighting. Hold on, little one. Please hold on. The restaurant's ornate ceiling blurred above me, crystal chandeliers swimming in my vision. Somewhere far away, sirens began to wail, but they felt too distant, too slow, just like Valentina had accused me of being. My eyes slid closed. When they opened again, seconds or minutes later, I couldn't tell. A man knelt beside me. Not a paramedic. He wore an immaculate black suit, and his hands were gentle as they brushed hair from my face. Signora Moretti, he said quietly, and something about his tone made my blood run colder than the shock already claiming me. Your husband is 3 minutes away. I didn't recognize him, but he clearly knew me. Knew Lorenzo, who... I tried to ask. Marco. I work for Signor Moretti. His dark eyes scanned the restaurant with lethal precision, cataloging faces, memorizing details. When his gaze landed on Valentina, still complaining by the bar, something arctic settled into his expression. I'm going to need you to stay conscious, Signora. Can you do that for me? I wanted to ask why it mattered. Why Lorenzo had someone working for him at all. Why this stranger appeared out of nowhere the moment I fell. But another contraction tore through me and I bit down on a scream. Marco's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone, speaking rapid Italian too low for me to catch. Then the restaurant's entrance doors burst, open with enough force to rattle the windows. Lorenzo, my husband, moved through Cielo Rosso, like a storm given human form. 6'3", of coiled fury in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. His dark hair was disheveled as if he'd been running, and his eyes, those eyes that looked at me each morning with such tenderness, were utterly devoid of mercy now. He didn't see the other diners who'd gathered to stare, didn't acknowledge Paolo's stammered greeting. He saw only me, crumpled and bleeding at the base of those stairs. Elena. My name left his lips like a prayer and a curse combined. In 3 strides he was beside me, gathering me into his arms with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his presence. I've got you, amore mio. I've got you. The baby. I know. His hand splayed across my belly, protective and possessive. The ambulance is here. But first... He looked up at Marco with eyes that had gone completely black. Tell me who did this. Marco didn't hesitate. He pointed directly at Valentina Russo. And that's when I saw it. The shift in Lorenzo's face that confirmed every suspicion I'd buried for 8 months. The cold calculation, the lethal promise, the absolute authority of a man who was used to having people obey or die. My husband wasn't just Lorenzo Moretti, the businessman who worked late hours. He was something far more dangerous, and Valentina Russo had just made the last mistake of her life. The ambulance. Ride blurred into a nightmare of flashing lights and urgent voices, but one thing remained crystal clear. Lorenzo never let go of my hand. Not when the paramedics tried to check my vitals. Not when they needed space to insert an IV. He simply moved with them, his grip on my fingers unbreakable, his other hand keeping his phone pressed to his ear as he spoke and clipped deadly Italian to someone on the other end. I don't care what meeting he's in. Tell Dante I need St. Catherine's cleared. Private floor, now. A pause. No, not the VIP wing, the entire 4th floor. And I want Dr. Reeves. Wake him up if you have to. Through the haze of pain and fear, I watched my husband command an entire hospital like he was ordering coffee. The paramedic, a young guy who couldn't have been more than 25, kept glancing at Lorenzo with something that looked uncomfortably like recognition and fear. Lorenzo, I whispered, another contraction stealing my breath. What's happening? His eyes snapped to mine immediately, and for just a moment, the ruthless stranger disappeared. He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that felt like an apology. You're going to be fine. Both of you. I promise you, Elena. I will burn down the world before I let anything happen to either of you. The conviction in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified me, because I believed him. Completely. St. Catherine's Hospital received us like visiting royalty, or visiting danger. The emergency entrance doors were already open, a team of doctors and nurses waiting. But what caught my attention were the men in dark suits positioned at every corner, every doorway, speaking into earpieces with the practiced efficiency of security details I'd only seen on TV. Mr. Moretti. A silver-haired doctor approached, unfazed by the chaos. We have the surgical suite prepared if necessary. Let's get her upstairs and assessed immediately. No surgery unless absolutely required, Lorenzo said, his voice dropping to something lethal. You will save them both, Dr. Reeves. Failure is not an option you want to consider. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise of consequences. Dr. Reeves didn't flinch. I've been doing this for 30 years, Mr. Moretti. I don't fail. They wheeled me toward the elevators, Lorenzo walking alongside the gurney, still holding my hand. As we passed through the lobby, I caught sight of Marco, the man from the restaurant, speaking quietly to 3 other suited men. One of them nodded and disappeared back through the entrance doors. Going where? To do what? Lorenzo. I tugged weakly at his hand as the elevator doors closed around us. Who are these people? Why do they all know you? His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath his olive skin. For a long moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he leaned down, his forehead touching mine, his voice dropping to barely a whisper meant only for me. Because I'm not who you think I am, amore mio. And after tonight, there's no hiding it anymore. The elevator climbed. My heart raced faster than the contractions. Then tell me, I breathed. Tell me the truth. Lorenzo Moretti, he said slowly, each word deliberate, is the head of the Moretti family. We control everything from the waterfront to the financial district. Shipping, imports, real estate, security contracts, all of it runs through me. I have 300 men who would die at my word. And tonight Valentina Russo put her hands on what belongs to me. The world tilted, and it had nothing to do with the pain radiating through my body. Mafia. My husband was mafia. I couldn't even form the word. Yes. No apology. No shame, just brutal honesty. I've been protecting you from this world since the day we met. You were supposed to stay separate, safe, untouched by what I do. That's why I never told you. Why I kept you working at that restaurant even though I wanted you home. Protected. His hand tightened on mine. But that ends now. After what happened tonight, every family in the city will know you exist. Will know you're my weakness. Weakness? The word came out sharper than intended, cutting through my fear. The elevator doors opened onto the 4th floor, completely empty except for more men in suits stationed at intervals down the hallway. My greatest weakness, Lorenzo corrected softly as they wheeled me into a private room that looked more like a luxury hotel suite than a hospital. Because I would betray every alliance, break every oath, and go to war with the entire underworld to keep you safe. Dr. Reeves and his team descended immediately, attaching monitors, checking dilation, assessing the baby's heartbeat. Each beep of the fetal monitor was a small mercy. She was still fighting, still alive. Placental abruption, Dr. Reeves announced grimly. Partial separation. The baby's in distress but stable for now. We need to get her to 32 weeks if possible, but if she deteriorates, do whatever it takes, Lorenzo interrupted. His hand never left mine, but his gaze had gone distant, calculating. Elena stays on bed rest under guard until delivery. 24-hour medical supervision, no visitors without my explicit approval. Lorenzo, I can't just stay here. I started to protest. You can. You will. He looked at me then, and the rawness in his expression stole my breath. Because 3 hours ago I was in a meeting planning a merger. Now I'm planning what to do with the woman who tried to kill my wife and child. And Elena. His thumb traced circles on my palm, the gesture heartbreakingly gentle against his next words. When I'm done with Valentina Russo, everyone in this city will know exactly what happens when someone touches what's mine. A nurse tried to guide him toward the door. Sir, we need to examine her, then examine her. I'm not leaving. And he didn't. Not when they checked me. Not when they administered medications. Not when visiting hours ended, and Dr. Reeves tried to insist he go home and rest. Lorenzo Moretti, mafia boss, ruler of an empire I'd been living beside in ignorance, simply pulled a chair to my bedside, laced his fingers through mine, and kept watch like a sentinel guarding his most precious treasure. Outside the window, the city glittered with lights that suddenly felt less like beauty and more like a battlefield. And somewhere out there, Valentina Russo had no idea that her world was about to end. I woke to the sound of Lorenzo's voice, low, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. I want her accounts frozen, every single one. Her father's real estate holdings, I want them audited. Find every code violation, every bribed inspector, every corner he's cut in the last 20 years. A pause. No, Marco, I don't want him ruined next week. I want him ruined by morning. My eyes opened to find him standing by the window, backlit by the pre-dawn glow of the city. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, but somehow looked even more dangerous in his casual dishevelment. The phone was pressed to his ear, and his free hand gripped the window frame hard enough that his knuckles had gone white. And Valentina? Another pause. Bring her to the orchid room. I'll deal with her personally after I know Elena and the baby are stable. The orchid room. I didn't know what that was, but the way he said it made my blood run cold. Lorenzo, I whispered. He turned immediately, the phone already being pocketed as he crossed to my bedside in 3 long strides. His hand found my face, cupping my cheek with a tenderness that seemed impossible from the man who'd just been orchestrating someone's destruction. How do you feel? Any pain? Should I call the doctor? His eyes scanned me frantically, looking for signs of distress. I feel like I married a stranger, I said quietly. The words hung between us like a blade. Lorenzo's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away, didn't make excuses. You married the only version of me that knows how to be gentle. The only version that remembers what it's like to want something more than power. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But yes, amore mio, you married a monster too. And now you get to decide if you can live with both. You're going to kill her. It wasn't a question. No. His answer surprised me. Killing her would be mercy. And Valentina Russo doesn't deserve mercy. He sat on the edge of my bed, his hand moving to rest protectively over my belly. She put her hands on you. On our daughter. In my world, Elena, that's not just an offense, it's a declaration of war. I should have been horrified. Should have called for security. Demanded a lawyer. Screamed for someone to save me from the man I'd pledged my life to. Instead, I found myself asking, what are you going to do to her? Something dark and satisfied flickered across Lorenzo's face. By the time the sun rises, Valentina will have nothing. No money, no reputation, no family willing to claim her. Her father will disown her to try to save himself. It won't work, but he'll try. And then she'll understand what it feels like to fall with no one to catch you. I struggled for words. That's worse than death. Yes, no apology, no regret. And every family in this city will see what I did to her and know that touching Elena Moretti means losing everything you've ever loved. The way he said my married name Moretti sent an involuntary shiver through me, like a brand, a claim, a promise of protection wrapped in thorns. I'm scared, I admitted, and I wasn't entirely sure if I meant scared of him or scared of how his words made something dark and grateful unfurl in my chest. Good. Lorenzo leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine. You should be scared, amore, because I'm about to turn you into the most protected and most dangerous woman in this city. You'll never work another double shift. Never worry about bills or rent or making some entitled bitch her wine on time. But you'll also never be free of what I am, of what we are now. We? I echoed. You became a target the moment you took my name. But you became untouchable the moment they made the mistake of hurting you. His hand splayed across my stomach, and I felt our daughter kick against his palm. Strong, alive, fighting. She'll grow up in this world, Elena, protected by it, shaped by it, and you'll be by my side as the queen of an empire you didn't know existed. I don't want to be a queen, I whispered. I just wanted to be a mother, a wife, normal. Normal died on those stairs. His voice softened, but the truth in it remained brutal. I'm sorry, amore mio. I'm so fucking sorry. I tried to keep you separate, tried to give you the life you deserved away from all this blood and darkness. But they found you anyway, and now the only way to keep you safe is to make sure everyone knows exactly who you belong to. The possessiveness should have rankled. Instead, it wrapped around me like a shield. I don't even know you, I said, but my hand had somehow found his, fingers lacing together over our unborn child. Then let me tell you. Lorenzo's dark eyes held mine with an intensity that made breathing difficult. My name is Lorenzo Domenico Moretti. I'm 34 years old. I took control of my family at 26 after my father was killed in a rival hit. I've ended 17 men personally, ordered the deaths of 43 more. I own half this city's politicians and all of its ports. I'm a criminal, Elena, a killer, a man who built his throne on blood and fear. Each confession should have sent me running. Instead I asked, and with me? His expression cracked, revealing something raw and almost boyish underneath. With you, I'm just a man who stops by a shitty diner at 2 a.m. because a beautiful waitress with tired eyes made him remember what it felt like to want something pure. Who married you in a courthouse because I couldn't wait 3 months for a proper wedding? Who talks to your belly? Every night and reads parenting books he hides in his office because he's terrified of being a bad father. Tears burned behind my eyes. You read parenting books? 5 of them. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I have notes, God help me. I laughed. A broken, exhausted sound that turned into a sob. Lorenzo gathered me carefully into his arms, mindful of the IV, the monitors, the fragile life we'd both almost lost. I know this isn't the life you chose, amore, but it's the life we have now, And I swear on everything I am, you will never fall again. Not while I'm breathing. Through the window, dawn broke over the city, and somewhere below, Valentina Russo's world was ending. Mine was just beginning. 3 days in that hospital room taught me more about Lorenzo's world than 8 months of marriage ever had. The flowers arrived. First, dozens of arrangements that transformed my room into a garden. But these weren't simple get-well bouquets. Each one came with a card bearing names I'd only heard whispered in news reports. The Castellano family, the Vitali brothers, the Romano syndicate, condolences for my accident, wishes for my swift recovery, veiled threats wrapped in expensive roses. They're testing you, Lorenzo explained, reading a card with barely concealed contempt before tossing it in the trash. Seeing if I'll accept their sympathies or if I'll see them for what they are, reminders that they know where you are, that you're vulnerable. And what will you do? I asked from my bed where I'd been confined for 72 hours of bed rest. The baby had stabilized, but Dr. Reeves insisted on monitoring every heartbeat, every contraction, every breath. Lorenzo's smile was all teeth and no warmth. I'm sending each family a gift in return, a reminder of what I'm capable of when someone threatens what's mine. I didn't ask what kind of gifts. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. The visitors came next, though they never made it past the 4th floor security checkpoint. Marco would appear in my doorway with updates. Dante Russo is in the lobby, demanding to see you. He wants to apologize on behalf of his daughter. Lorenzo didn't even look up from the laptop he'd been working on, conducting business from the chair beside my bed. Tell Dante that if he sets foot in this hospital, he'll leave in a body bag. The only reason he's still breathing is because I want him to watch everything he built crumble first. Copy that, boss. Marco disappeared. It happened like clockwork. Every few hours someone new would try. A councilman Lorenzo had in his pocket. A police captain who owed him favors. Even Maria from the restaurant. Though Lorenzo allowed her 15 supervised minutes to drop off my personal belongings and cry over my hospital bed. I should have stopped her. Maria sobbed, clutching my hand. I saw Valentina getting angry, saw her walking toward you. It's not your fault, I assured her, though Lorenzo's presence behind her was a looming reminder that someone would pay for this. Someone already was. After Maria left, I turned to Lorenzo. Tell me what you've done to her. To Valentina. He studied me for a long moment, as if weighing how much truth I could handle. Then he set aside his laptop and pulled his chair closer, taking my hand with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew he was capable of. Her father disowned her publicly yesterday, called a press conference, and announced that Valentina no longer represents the Russo family or their interests. Her trust fund, $15 million, has been frozen pending investigation into tax fraud I may have anonymously tipped off the IRS about. Her penthouse is being foreclosed. Her credit cards were declined at lunch yesterday, and the video of her being escorted out of Amici for failing to pay went viral within hours. My breath caught. You filmed it? I made sure someone was there to capture it, yes. No shame. No remorse. But that's just the beginning. Every gallery that represented her vanity art installations has dropped her. Every charity board she sat on has revoked her membership. Her friends, and I use that term loosely, have been posting gleeful messages about how they always knew she was trash. Lorenzo, I didn't know if I was protesting or encouraging him. She went to 5 different law firms yesterday trying to find representation. They all turned her away. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a soothing gesture that clashed with the darkness in his voice. Because they all know that taking on Valentina Russo means going against me. And no one in this city is that stupid. What happens to her now? Lorenzo's expression hardened into something ancient and merciless. She becomes a cautionary tale. A reminder that in my city, you don't touch what belongs to the Moretti family. Eventually, if she's smart, she'll leave. Disappear to some small town where no one knows her name or what she did. And if she's not smart, he shrugged, she'll try to come for you again, and then I'll kill her. The casual way he said it should have horrified me. Instead, I felt something fierce and protective stir in my chest. For this man who was remaking the world to keep me safe. Who was showing me exactly how far he'd go to protect our daughter. You're turning me into someone I don't recognize, I whispered. No, amore mio. Lorenzo lifted my hand to his lips. pressing a kiss to my knuckles. I'm showing you who you've always been. You think normal women marry men they barely know in courthouse ceremonies? You think they ignore the expensive gifts, the late-night phone calls, the way strangers look at their husband with fear? His dark eyes held mine with devastating intensity. You knew, Elena. Some part of you always knew. You just didn't want to admit what that made you. And what does it make me? Mine. The word was possession and promise combined. The woman brave enough or crazy enough to love a monster. The woman who'll raise our daughter to be just as fierce and unbreakable as her mother. The woman who will stand beside me and rule this city whether she wanted to or not. Before I could respond, Dr. Reeves knocked and entered, Marco close behind him. The doctor's expression was carefully neutral, but I'd learned to read the subtle signs, the slight tension in his shoulders, the way he glanced at Lorenzo before addressing me. Mrs. Moretti, I have good news and concerning news. The good news is that you and the baby have stabilized beautifully. The concerning news is that you'll need to remain on strict bed rest for the remainder of your pregnancy. Which means she comes home with me, Lorenzo interrupted. 24-hour medical supervision, private nurses, whatever equipment you need installed. But she's not staying in a hospital where I can't control every variable. Dr. Reeves nodded as if he'd expected this. I'll make the arrangements. We can discharge her tomorrow morning. Tomorrow. I'd be going home. Except home had been our modest 2-bedroom apartment in a building with thin walls and unreliable heating. Somehow, I doubted that's where Lorenzo meant to take me. Where is home now? I asked after the doctor left. Lorenzo's smile was equal parts beautiful and terrifying. Somewhere I can keep you safe behind walls no one would dare breach. Somewhere worthy of the woman who's about to become the most powerful figure in this city next to me. I'm just a waitress, I protested weakly. You were a waitress. He leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear. Now you're Elena Moretti, and tomorrow, amore mio, I'm taking you to your throne. The Moretti estate wasn't a house. It was a fortress disguised as a palace. Black iron gates opened onto a tree-lined drive that seemed to stretch for miles, leading to a sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion that could have housed 50 families. Cream-colored stone, terracotta roofing, and gardens manicured with military precision. Armed men in dark suits stood at intervals along the property line, trying and failing to look like ordinary security. This is where you live? I breathed from the passenger seat of Lorenzo's black Mercedes. He'd insisted on driving me himself, with Marco and 2 other SUVs full of guards trailing behind us like a motorcade. This is where we live now, Lorenzo corrected, his hand finding mine over the center console. I kept the apartment because you loved it, because it made you happy. But that life is over, Elena. This is the only place I can guarantee your safety. The car pulled up to the front entrance, where a woman in her 50s waited on the marble steps. She wore a crisp gray dress and had the bearing of someone who'd been managing chaos for decades. That's Agnes, Lorenzo said, helping me carefully from the car. My body still ached from the fall, and moving felt like negotiating with broken glass. She runs the household. Anything you need, she'll arrange it, Mrs. Moretti. Agnes's smile was warm but assessing, her eyes taking in my obvious pregnancy, the healing bruises on my arms, the way Lorenzo kept one hand protectively on my lower back. Welcome home. We've prepared the East Wing for you. All medical equipment installed per Dr. Reeves's specifications. Your private nurse will arrive within the hour. I nodded mutely, overwhelmed by the efficiency, the scale, the sheer impossibility of this being my life now. Lorenzo guided me through doors that opened into a foyer bigger than my childhood home. Marble floors, soaring ceilings with crystal chandeliers, a grand staircase that curved upward like something from a movie. But it was the artwork that caught my attention. Massive oil paintings of stern-looking men in dark suits, their eyes following us as we walked. Your family? I asked. 4 generations of Moretti men who built this empire. Lorenzo's voice carried a weight I'd never heard before. My great-grandfather started with a single shipping warehouse. My grandfather expanded into real estate. My father added political connections and international trade routes. And He paused at the base of the staircase. I turned it into something untouchable. And now I'm supposed to be part of this legacy? Now you're supposed to be the reason it continues. His hand moved to my belly, where our daughter kicked as if in agreement. "She'll inherit everything, Elena. Every property, every alliance, every carefully constructed power structure. But more importantly, she'll inherit the knowledge that her mother was strong enough to survive this world and bend it to her will." Before I could respond, Marco appeared from a side hallway, his expression grim. "Boss, we have a situation. Valentina Russo was spotted at the Port Authority trying to buy a bus ticket to Chicago. She's out of money, but let her go," Lorenzo said, surprising both Marco and me. "Sir, let her run. Let her spend the rest of her pathetic life looking over her shoulder, wondering if today's the day I decide she's suffered enough and send someone to finish the job." Lorenzo's smile was colder than I'd ever seen it. "Living in fear is a far better punishment than any quick death I could give her." Marco nodded and disappeared, leaving us alone in the cavernous foyer. "You're letting her go?" I asked, uncertain how to feel about this mercy that didn't quite feel like mercy at all. "I'm letting her live with what she did." Lorenzo began guiding me toward the staircase, taking each step slowly to accommodate my injuries. "Every time she looks in a mirror, she'll see the woman who destroyed her own life because she couldn't wait 10 minutes for wine. Every night, she'll wonder if I've changed my mind. And she'll never ever be able to come back to this city or any city where my reach extends." We reached the second floor, and Lorenzo led me down a hallway lined with more family portraits. But at the end of the hall, he paused before a set of double doors. "I had this prepared for you," he said quietly, and something vulnerable flickered across his face. "If it's not right, we can change everything. I just wanted you to feel—" He opened the doors. The room beyond stole my breath. It was a suite, not just a bedroom, sitting area, private balcony overlooking the gardens, and an ensuite bathroom visible through an open doorway. But what made my chest tighten was the care in every detail. Soft cream and sage green colors that I'd mentioned loving once in passing. Books on the nightstand. My favorite novels that had been stacked in our apartment. A photograph of us from our courthouse wedding in a silver frame on the dresser. And in the corner, a nursery already taking shape. A white crib with delicate lace bedding. A rocking chair. Shelves waiting to be filled with toys and books and all the dreams we had for our daughter. "Lorenzo?" Tears burned my eyes. "I know this isn't what you wanted," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I know you'd rather be in our tiny apartment where the neighbors complained about noise and the heating barely worked. But, Elena, I can keep you safe here. I can give our daughter everything. And maybe, if you let me, I can give you a life that's more than just surviving." I turned to face him. This man who was equal parts savior and captor, protector and predator. And what if I can't adjust to this? What if I wake up every day missing my old life? Then I'll spend every day trying to make you forget it. Lorenzo cupped my face in his hands, his touch achingly gentle. "I'll fill this house with whatever makes you happy. I'll bring you every book you want, every flower you love, every stupid romantic comedy you used to watch on your days off. And I'll hope, God, I'll hope, that eventually you'll look at me and see something worth staying for." "I already see that," I admitted, the truth escaping before I could stop it. "That's what terrifies me." His kiss was soft, reverent, tasting of relief and promises I wasn't sure either of us could keep. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "Welcome home, Mrs. Moretti," he whispered, and despite everything, the violence, the danger, the impossible reality of becoming a mafia wife, some traitorous part of my heart whispered back, "Yes, home." A knock interrupted the moment. Agnese appeared in the doorway with a young woman in scrubs beside her. "Your nurse is here, Mrs. Moretti." And Mr. Moretti, her expression shifted to business. "You have a call from the Castellano family. They're requesting a meeting." Lorenzo's jaw tightened, and I saw him shift from my gentle husband back into the dangerous man who ruled an empire. "Tell them I'll consider it, after I've finished ensuring my wife is settled." "Of course, sir." After they left, I looked up at Lorenzo. "The Castellano family, they sent flowers to the hospital." "They did." His expression darkened, along with a very clear message that they expect me to handle this situation quietly. That embarrassing Valentina Russo and destroying her father has disrupted the delicate balance of power in this city. What will you tell them? Lorenzo's smile was all edges and warning. That if they have a problem with how I protect my family, they're welcome to come discuss it in person. And they'll learn exactly why no one challenges the Moretti family and lives to boast about it. He kissed my forehead and moved toward the door, already pulling out his phone to handle whatever crisis came next. Lorenzo? I called after him. He paused, looking back. Don't let me become someone who's okay with all of this too quickly, I said quietly. I need time to grieve the woman I was before. His expression softened with understanding, and something that looked like respect. Take all the time you need, amore mio. That woman isn't gone. She's just learning to survive in a world that should have never touched her. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in my beautiful prison with our daughter moving. Beneath my heart and the weight of an empire settling onto my shoulders like a crown I'd never asked to wear, the nightmare came 3 nights after I moved into the estate. In it, I was falling again, endlessly tumbling down those marble stairs. But this time, when I hit the bottom, Valentina Russo stood over me laughing. And behind her, Lorenzo watched with empty eyes, doing nothing to help. I woke gasping, my hands instinctively protecting my belly. Elena. Lorenzo was already beside me, his arms pulling me against his chest. You're safe. I'm here. You're safe. But I couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop feeling the phantom sensation of falling, of losing everything in one terrible moment. I keep seeing her face. I sobbed into his shoulder. Keep feeling her hands pushing me. What if she comes back? What if next time there won't be a next time? Lorenzo's voice was absolute granite. I swear to you, amore mio, she will never touch you again. No one will. You can't promise that. You can't control everything. Watch me. Something in his tone made me pull back to look at him. Even in the darkness of our bedroom, illuminated only by moonlight streaming through the balcony doors, I could see the deadly determination in his eyes. What did you do? I whispered. Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment, his hand moving in soothing circles over my back. Then, I want to show you something. But once I do, you can't unsee it, can't unhear it. It will change how you see me, how you see this life, forever. My heart hammered against my ribs. Show me. He studied my face, searching for certainty. Whatever he found there must have satisfied him because he nodded slowly and reached for his phone on the nightstand. A few taps, and he pulled up a video file. This was recorded 2 hours ago, he said quietly, holding the phone between us. The video showed a room I didn't recognize. Concrete walls, a single hanging light bulb, and a chair in the center where a woman sat bound and gagged. It took me a moment to recognize her through the bruises and tear-streaked makeup. Valentina Russo. Lorenzo, what? Watch, he said softly. On the screen, Marco entered the frame. He removed Valentina's gag, and she immediately started screaming. Not words, just raw animal terror. Mrs. Russo. Marco's voice was eerily calm. Mr. Moretti wants you to understand something. He was willing to let you run, willing to let you live with your shame and start over somewhere far from here. But then you made a mistake. The camera panned, and another figure was dragged into view. A man, barely conscious, blood streaming from a head wound. My hand flew to my mouth. You hired this man to finish what you started, Marco continued. Paid him $10,000. Money you borrowed from a loan shark, which was stupid. To break into St. Catherine's Hospital and hurt Mrs. Moretti. To make it look like an accident. A fall in the bathroom, perhaps. Something tragic but explainable. I didn't, Valentina sobbed. I was desperate. She ruined my life. That bitch deserved. The slap echoed through the video. Marco's hand had moved so fast I barely saw it. You don't speak about Mrs. Moretti, he said, voice dropping to something lethal. You don't even think her name. Because what happens next is a gift from Mr. Moretti. A lesson in what mercy actually costs. Lorenzo's hand tightened on mine as we watched. On screen, Marco pulled out his phone and made a call. It's done, she confessed. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Then Marco looked directly at the camera, at us, and said, Mr. Moretti wants you to know, Valentina, that you had a choice. You could have disappeared. Instead, you chose revenge. And now, the video cut off. I stared at the black screen, my mind racing. What happens now? What did you do to her? Lorenzo set the phone aside and took both my hands in his. She's on a cargo ship heading to Eastern Europe as we speak. She'll be sold to people who specialize in making problems disappear. She won't be killed, I keep my promises, but she'll spend the rest of her life wishing she had been. The words should have horrified me. Should have sent me running from this man and his brutal world. Instead, I asked, the man she hired? In police custody. He'll confess to attempted murder and assault by morning. The loan shark who funded her scheme has been encouraged to leave the city permanently. Lorenzo's thumb traced my knuckles. Every thread, every connection, every person who helped her try to hurt you. All of them have been handled. You did this for me. I did this for us. He pulled me closer, his hand splaying protectively over my belly. The moment you took my name, you became the second most dangerous person in this city. Not because of what you can do, but because of what I'll do for you. And anyone who forgets that, anyone who thinks they can touch you and live to tell about it, will learn exactly what it means to go to war with Lorenzo Moretti. I should have felt trapped. Should have mourned the loss of the gentle man I thought I'd married, but all I felt was safe. Terrifyingly, devastatingly safe. I'm turning into someone I don't recognize, I whispered against his chest. No, amore mio. Lorenzo tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his dark eyes. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. Strong enough to survive in this world, fierce enough to protect our daughter, brave enough to stand beside me even when you see the monster I truly am. And if I like the monster? The confession escaped before I could stop it. If some part of me is glad you destroyed her, what does that make me? Lorenzo's smile was equal parts pride and possession. Mine. Completely, irrevocably mine. His kiss was deeper this time, tasting of dark promises and dangerous devotion. When we broke apart, I was breathless, trembling with something that wasn't fear. The Castellano meeting is tomorrow, he said quietly. They're bringing representatives from 3 other families. They want to discuss territory concerns and maintaining peace. What they really want is to test whether becoming a husband and father has made me weak. Has it? I asked. Lorenzo's laugh was sharp and humorless. It's made me the most dangerous I've ever been, because now I have something to lose, something worth burning the entire city down to protect. He stood, pulling me carefully to my feet. Come with me tomorrow. To the meeting. What? Lorenzo, I can't. You can. You will. His hands framed my face, forcing me to see the absolute certainty in his expression. I want them to see you, to see that swell of our child, to understand that the Moretti family is stronger than it's ever been, that I'm not just protecting territory anymore, I'm protecting a legacy. They'll see me as a weakness. Let them try. His smile turned predatory. And then they'll watch me destroy anyone foolish enough to act on that assumption. You're not my weakness, Elena. You're my warning, my promise, my line in the sand that says, touch this, and I'll end you. Outside our window, the estate grounds were illuminated by security lights, casting long shadows where armed men patrolled. This was my life now, not the quiet domesticity I'd dreamed of, but something far more dangerous and intoxicating. I'm scared, I admitted. Good. Lorenzo pulled me back to bed, arranging pillows to support my aching body, his touch achingly gentle despite everything he was capable of. Stay scared enough to be careful, amore, but never scared enough to doubt that I'll burn this entire world down before I let anyone hurt you again. As I drifted back to sleep in his arms, I heard him whisper against my hair. You're safe now. I promise. And I've never broken a promise to you. The terrifying part was, I believed him. Agnese dressed me like I was going to war. Which, I supposed I was. The dress must be elegant but commanding, she explained, pulling a deep emerald silk gown from the closet that I'd never seen before. It accentuates your pregnancy without apologizing for it. Shows them you're not hiding, not ashamed, not weak. I stared at my reflection as she worked, barely recognizing the woman looking back. The bruises from my fall had faded to yellow shadows, but my body had changed in other ways. My belly was unmistakably round now. My breasts fuller, my face softer. I looked like someone's mother. I looked like someone worth protecting. Mrs. Moretti. Agnese met my eyes in the mirror. I've worked for this family for 23 years. I dressed Lorenzo's mother for meetings just like this one. And I'll tell you what I told her. They will try to intimidate you. They will test you. They will look for any sign of weakness to exploit. What did she do? Agnese's smile was sharp with memory. She looked them in the eye and reminded them that she'd given birth to the man who could end their bloodlines with a phone call. That motherhood hadn't made her soft. It had made her lethal. What happened to her? I asked quietly. Lorenzo rarely spoke of his mother. She was killed. Car bomb meant for Lorenzo's father, but she was in the vehicle. Agnese's hands stilled on my hair. Lorenzo was 12. He watched the explosion from his bedroom window. My heart clenched. God. That boy grew up understanding that love in this world is the most dangerous weapon you can wield. It's why he fought so hard to keep you separate, to keep you safe. She secured the final pin in my upswept hair. But safe isn't always possible. Sometimes the only option is to become too dangerous to touch. Before I could respond, Lorenzo appeared in the doorway. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than I used to make in 6 months. His dark hair perfectly styled, his presence filling the room like a gathering storm. But it was his eyes that caught me. The way they softened when they landed on me. Even as the rest of him remained hard as granite. You look... He crossed to me, his hand finding my face with aching gentleness. You look like a queen, amore mio. I looked terrified. I corrected. Good. They should see that you're brave enough to be here despite the fear. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Are you ready? No. Yes. Marco waited by the car, along with 4 other guards I'd come to recognize over the past few days. The drive to wherever this meeting was happening felt simultaneously too long and not long enough. Where are we going? I asked as the city blurred past. The Orchid Room, Lorenzo said, and I felt ice slide down my spine at the name. It's a private club that's been neutral territory for 70 years. No violence allowed within its walls. It's where families meet to negotiate before they go to war. Comforting, I muttered. His hand found mine, squeezing. I won't let anything happen to you. But Elena, you need to understand what you're about to see. These men, they're like me. Dangerous, ruthless. They've killed and ordered kills. They rule through fear and respect. And today, they're going to judge whether I'm still worthy of my position or if fatherhood has made me vulnerable. What do you need me to do? Lorenzo's smile was pure predator. Just be yourself. Be the woman strong enough to survive a fall that should have killed her and her child. Be the woman brave enough to love a monster. That's all the weapon I need. The Orchid Room was everything its name suggested. Opulent, beautiful, and hiding thorns beneath every surface. Crystal chandeliers. Mahogany panels. Waiters in white gloves serving drinks I couldn't name. And at a large circular table in the private back room sat 5 men who radiated power and violence in equal measure. They stood as we entered. Lorenzo. The oldest man, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, radiating old-world authority, spoke first. Thank you for coming. And this must be the famous Mrs. Moretti. Elena, Lorenzo said, his hand never leaving the small of my back. My wife, the mother of my child, and the reason I'm about to make several things very clear. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. We sat. Lorenzo positioned me beside him, angled so I could see everyone while they could see my pregnant belly. A deliberate choice, I realized. A statement. Gentlemen, Lorenzo began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Let me save us all some time. I know why you requested this meeting. You're concerned. You think that marriage and impending fatherhood have made me soft, made me distracted, made me weak enough that perhaps it's time to renegotiate our territories, our agreements, our understanding of who holds power in this city. The men exchanged glances. The silver-haired one, Castellano I guessed, leaned back in his chair. You've been aggressive lately, Lorenzo. The Russo situation was handled with more brutality than necessary. It's drawn attention, made people nervous. Good. Lorenzo's smile didn't reach his eyes. People should be nervous. Because apparently, some in this city have forgotten what happens when you threaten the Moretti family. A spoiled girl pushed your wife, another man interjected. Younger, cocky. Accidents happen, but you destroyed an entire family over it. You made her disappear. That's not proportional response. That's emotional. Weak. I felt Lorenzo tense beside me, coiling like a snake about to strike. Weak? Lorenzo's voice dropped to something lethal. Let me tell you about weakness, Dante. Weakness is sitting at this table thinking you can question my judgment. Weakness is believing that family makes me vulnerable when it's actually made me unstoppable. Weakness, he leaned forward, is not understanding that the woman sitting beside me is the only reason you're all still breathing. Silence crashed over the room. Explain, Castellano said carefully. Lorenzo's hand found mine on the table, lacing our fingers together in full view of everyone. Before Elena, I had nothing to lose. I could be reckless, could take risks, could be negotiated with, because ultimately, what did I care if a deal went south or a territory shifted? But now, his grip tightened on my hand. Now I have everything to lose, which means I'll do anything, destroy anyone, burn any bridge, break any treaty, to protect what's mine. You think that makes me weak? It makes me the most dangerous man you'll ever face. That's not how this world works, the cocky one, Dante argued. Emotional attachments get you killed. Your own mother. Lorenzo moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was seated. The next he had Dante by the throat, the younger man's chair toppling backward as Lorenzo lifted him partially off the ground. Finish that sentence, Lorenzo whispered, and I'll kill you right here. Neutral ground be damned. Lorenzo! Castellano stood, hands raised. Control yourself! But Lorenzo's eyes never left Dante's reddening face. My mother understood what all of you seem to have forgotten. That in this world, love isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. It's the thing that makes men like me stop calculating odds and start calculating body counts. It's what transforms careful businessmen into absolute tyrants who will burn cities down for revenge. He released Dante, who collapsed, gasping into his chair. Lorenzo straightened his suit, composed himself, and turned to address the entire table. So yes, gentlemen, I'm a husband now, about to be a father. And that doesn't make me weak. It makes me untouchable. Because now you can't threaten me with death. You can't leverage territory or money or power. The only thing I care about is sitting beside me. And if any of you, ever threaten her again, directly or indirectly, I will systematically destroy everything you've ever built before I kill you and everyone you've ever loved. The silence that followed was absolute. Castellano studied Lorenzo for a long moment. Then his eyes slid to me. Mrs. Moretti, you're very quiet. Every eye in the room turned to me. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced myself to meet Castellano's gaze without flinching. What would you have me say? I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. That I'm sorry my existence has complicated your business arrangements? That I regret surviving an attempted murder? That I wish my husband was the kind of man who'd let someone hurt his family and do nothing about it? I placed my free hand over my belly, feeling our daughter kick. I'm 7 months pregnant with Lorenzo Moretti's child. That makes me either the most protected woman in this city or the most valuable target, depending on how stupid you all are. But either way, I looked around the table, meeting each man's eyes in turn. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is he. So you can either accept that the world has changed, or you can test him and learn exactly why everyone fears the Moretti name. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved. Then Castellano laughed, a genuine, appreciative sound that broke the tension like shattered glass. Well, he said, raising his whiskey glass, I see why you chose her, Lorenzo. She's got spine. Lorenzo's hand squeezed mine, pride radiating from him. She's got everything. The attack came 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday that had started like any other. I was in the nursery, folding tiny clothes that Agnesi had ordered, soft cotton onesies and delicate blankets that smelled of lavender. Dr. Reeves had cleared me for light activity, and the simple domesticity of preparing for our daughter felt like a lifeline to normalcy in this strange new world. Lorenzo was in his study, handling what he called routine business. Marco stood guard outside my door as he always did. The estate hummed with its usual efficient silence, then the windows exploded, Glass shattered inward in a crystalline wave as gunfire erupted from somewhere in the gardens. I dropped to the floor on instinct, my arms wrapping around my belly as my ears rang from the concussion of sound. "Elena!" Lorenzo's roar carried from down the hallway, raw with panic I'd never heard from him before. The door burst open. Not Marco. 3 men in black tactical gear, faces covered, weapons raised. One of them grabbed my arm, hauling me up with brutal efficiency. "Got her. Moving to extraction point B. No." I struggled, fighting with everything I had despite knowing it was useless. "Let me go!" A hand clamped over my mouth. The world tilted as they dragged me toward the shattered window, toward the chaos of gunfire and shouting outside. Then Marco appeared in the doorway, blood streaming from a head wound, his gun already raised. "Get down!" The first shooter went down. The second spun toward Marco, and I used the distraction to slam my elbow into my captor's ribs with all my strength. He grunted, his grip loosening just enough. Lorenzo materialized like vengeance incarnate. He moved through the room like death itself, 3 shots fired with surgical precision. The man holding me dropped. The remaining shooter tried to run, and made it exactly 2 steps before Lorenzo put a bullet in his spine. Then his arms were around me, gentle despite the violence still echoing through the estate. "Elena, amore mio, are you hurt?" "The baby, I'm okay," I gasped, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. "We're okay." "Lorenzo, what's happening?" "Betrayal." The word came out like shattered glass. His eyes scanned me frantically, hands checking for injuries, for blood, for any sign that he'd failed to protect me. Someone told them exactly when and where to strike. "Someone inside." More gunfire erupted from downstairs, shouting in Italian, the unmistakable sound of bodies hitting marble floors. "Marco." Lorenzo's voice cut through the chaos. "Get her to the safe room, now. Don't stop for anything or anyone. If I don't make it out, don't." I grabbed his jacket, terror clawing up my throat. "Don't you dare finish that sentence." He kissed me, hard, desperate, tasting of fear and fury. "I love you. Remember that. Whatever happens next, remember I loved you more than anything in this goddamn world." Then Marco was pulling me away, half carrying me down a service hallway I'd never noticed before, toward a section of the house that seemed to exist solely for emergencies like this. "Keep moving. Mrs. Moretti," Marco urged, blood still dripping from his temple. "Boss will handle this." "He always does." Behind us, more gunfire. An explosion that shook the entire structure. Lorenzo's voice roaring commands in Italian, every word dripping with lethal promise. The safe room was hidden behind a false wall in the wine cellar. Concrete reinforced with steel. Enough food and supplies for weeks, and a wall of monitors showing every corner of the estate. On those screens, I watched my husband's empire go to war. Lorenzo moved through the chaos like a conductor directing an orchestra of violence. His men, dozens of them that I hadn't even known lived on the property, swarmed the attackers with practiced efficiency. But it was Lorenzo himself who was terrifying to witness. No hesitation, no mercy. Just brutal, elegant violence that left bodies in his wake. "Who are they?" I whispered, watching the screens. "Who would dare attack us here?" Marco's expression was granite. "The Vitale brothers. They've been looking for an excuse to make a move on Moretti territory for years. Thought today was their chance. But how did they know? That Lorenzo would be in his study? That most of the guards were rotating shifts? That you'd be alone in the nursery?" Marco's jaw tightened. Someone told them. Someone close enough to know our security protocols. My blood ran cold. "Who?" Before Marco could answer, one of the monitors flickered. A different room, Lorenzo's study. And in it, Lorenzo himself, holding someone against the wall by their throat. I recognized the face immediately. Dante, the cocky young man from the meeting. The one who'd questioned Lorenzo's strength. "Didn't think it through, did you?" Lorenzo's voice came through the speakers, cold as winter. "Thought you could use my wife as leverage? Thought the Vitale brothers would reward you with my territories if you helped them take me down. It was supposed to be clean," Dante choked out. "Quick extraction. No one hurt. Just use her to make you negotiate." Lorenzo's fist connected with Dante's face with bone-breaking force. "You put your hands on what's mine. On the mother of my child. On the only pure thing in my entire goddamn life. Lorenzo, please, Did she say please? Lorenzo's voice dropped to something inhuman. When your men grabbed her? When they put their hands on her pregnant body and dragged her toward that window. Did she beg, Dante? Did she say please? Dante was sobbing now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Yes. Lorenzo released him, letting him drop to the floor. It was. The last mistake you'll ever make. What happened next, I couldn't watch. I turned away from the monitor, my hands pressed over my ears, trying to block out Dante's screams. Marco didn't flinch, just kept watching the screens with professional detachment, occasionally updating me on the situation outside. Estate is secure. All attackers neutralized or captured. Vitale brothers are in custody. Boss's men picked them up from their club 20 minutes ago. It's over? I whispered. The attack is over. Marco's expression remained grim. But what comes next? That's just beginning. An hour later, Lorenzo found me in the safe room, still shaking, still processing what I'd witnessed. He was covered in blood. Some his, mostly not. His knuckles were split, his shirt torn, his face a mask of barely controlled rage that softened the instant he saw me. Elena. He crossed to me in 3 strides, pulling me into his arms with desperate gentleness. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it coming. Should have protected you better. You saved me, I interrupted, my voice muffled against his chest. You saved us both. I almost lost you. His voice cracked, and I realized he was shaking too. When I heard those windows break, when I knew they had you, Elena, I've never been that scared in my entire life. I pulled back to look at him, this man who'd just executed someone with his bare hands, who'd orchestrated a counterattack that left bodies littering his estate, who ruled an empire through fear and blood. And I saw only the terrified husband who'd almost lost everything. What happens now? I asked. Lorenzo's expression hardened back into the mafia boss I'd come to know. Now, everyone learns what happens when they come for the Moretti family. The Vitale brothers, every man who participated in this attack, everyone who knew about it and said nothing, they all pay. In blood, in suffering, in ways that will make Valentina Russo's fate look like mercy. And Dante? Dead, no emotion. Just fact. His body will be found in Vitale territory with evidence linking him to their organization. It'll look like they killed him to tie up loose ends. His family will blame them. And when the families go to war with each other, we'll sweep in and take everything they both owned. The cold calculation should have horrified me. Instead, I felt only grim satisfaction. I watched you kill him, I admitted quietly. On the monitors. I tried not to, but I know. Lorenzo cupped my face in his blood-stained hands. And I need you to tell me right now, Elena, can you still love me? Knowing what I'm capable of? What I've done? What I'll continue to do to keep you safe? I thought about the terror of being grabbed, the helplessness of being dragged toward that window, the absolute certainty that I was about to lose everything. My daughter, my life, my future. And I thought about Lorenzo appearing like an avenging angel, eliminating the threat without hesitation, protecting me with a ferocity that bordered on feral. I don't just love you, I whispered. I'm grateful for what you are, for what you're willing to do. Does that make me a monster too? His kiss was answer enough. Desperate, possessive, tasting of blood and devotion and dark promises neither of us could take back. When we broke apart, Lorenzo pressed his forehead to mine. We're moving you tonight, somewhere even I don't know about until you're there, somewhere no one can reach you until after the baby is born. You're sending me away? I'm keeping you alive. His voice broke on the words. Because, amore mio, I can't survive losing you. And what I'm about to do, the war I'm about to start, it's going to get ugly. Blood in the streets ugly, and I need to know you're somewhere safe while I burn this city down. The safe house was a villa on the coast, 3 hours from the city, and a lifetime away from everything I'd come to know. White stone walls, endless ocean views, armed guards disguised as groundskeepers, and an isolation so complete that some days I forgot the rest of the world existed. Lorenzo visited when he could, arriving in the middle of the night in bulletproof vehicles. Staying until dawn forced him back to whatever war he was waging in my absence. Each time he looked more haunted, more dangerous, more like a man balancing on the knife's edge between salvation and damnation. How bad is it? I asked one night, 3 weeks into my exile. We lay in bed together, his hand tracing lazy patterns over my swollen belly, our daughter kicking against his palm. The Vitale organization no longer exists, he said quietly. Their territories have been absorbed, their assets liquidated. Their family name will be remembered as a cautionary tale about what happens when you come for the Morettis. And Dante's family? They made the mistake of demanding justice for his death. Claimed we had no proof he was involved. Lorenzo's smile was sharp as broken glass, so I provided proof. Bank transfers, recorded phone calls, security footage of him meeting with Vitale representatives. His father disowned him posthumously. His mother won't leave her house. His siblings changed their last names. I should have felt sympathy, should have mourned the destruction of an entire family tree. Instead, I felt only cold satisfaction. What does that make me? I whispered. That I'm glad? That I want them to suffer? Lorenzo pulled me closer, careful of my belly. It makes you mine, amore mio. It makes you someone who understands that in this world, mercy is the same as weakness, and weakness gets you killed. I miss you, I admitted, hating how small my voice sounded. I miss our home. I miss feeling like a wife instead of a prisoner. 2 more weeks. His lips brushed my temple. Dr. Reeves says you're at 35 weeks. After 37, he's willing to induce if necessary. Then you come home, and I never let you out of my sight again. What if something happens before then? What if then you have Dr. Reeves here full-time, a fully equipped medical suite, and a helicopter that can have you at the best hospital in the region in 15 minutes? His hand splayed possessively across my stomach. I've thought of everything, Elena. You're safer here than anywhere in the world. Safe, protected, isolated. The words felt like prison bars wrapped in silk. The contractions started 4 days later, at 2 a.m., while Lorenzo was back in the city handling what he'd called unavoidable business. At first, I thought it was false labor, Braxton Hicks, like Dr. Reeves had warned about. But these pains were different, sharper, more insistent, coming in waves that stole my breath. Mrs. Moretti? Agnese appeared in my doorway. She'd insisted on staying with me, refusing to leave me alone even when Lorenzo offered to triple her salary to return to the estate. Are you all right? I think... Another contraction hit and I gasped. I think it's time. What happened next was controlled chaos. Dr. Reeves materializing from his room down the hall. Nurses I hadn't realized were living on the property suddenly appearing with medical equipment, the helicopter being prepped, and Marco on the phone with Lorenzo, his voice urgent but controlled. Boss, she's in labor. Yes, now. No, we can't wait. Contractions are 3 minutes apart. We're moving to the hospital. I couldn't hear Lorenzo's response, but Marco's expression told me everything. I understand, sir. I'll guard her with my life. The helicopter ride was a blur of pain and fear, and the steady rhythm of Dr. Reeves' voice telling me everything was going to be fine, that I was doing beautifully, that my daughter was strong and ready to meet the world. But all I could think was, Lorenzo isn't here. He's going to miss this. Our daughter is coming, and he's not here. The private hospital room Lorenzo had arranged was already prepared when we arrived. An entire wing cleared, security posted at every entrance, medical staff hand-selected by Dr. Reeves himself, 8 centimeters dilated, a nurse announced. This baby is eager. Where is he? I gasped between contractions. Where's Lorenzo? He's coming, Mrs. Moretti, Marco assured me from his post by the door. 20 minutes out. You just focus on... I don't have 20 minutes! The pain was transforming into something primal, unstoppable. She's coming now. Dr. Reeves checked again, and his expression shifted to professional urgency. She's right. Mrs. Moretti, on the next contraction, I need you to push. No. Tears streamed down my face. Not without him. Please, I can't... Elena. Agnese took my hand, her grip firm and grounding. Listen to me. You are stronger than you think, braver than you know. And that little girl doesn't care about timing. She's ready to meet her mother. So you're going to do this, with or without Lorenzo here, because that's what mothers do. We do the impossible. Another contraction crashed over me, and instinct took over. I pushed, and pushed. And somewhere between the pain and the effort, and the overwhelming certainty that I was being torn apart, I heard the most beautiful sound in the world. My daughter's first cry. "She's here," Dr. Reeves announced, his voice warm with satisfaction. A healthy baby girl. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. They placed her on my chest. Tiny, red-faced, perfect. Her eyes squinted against the light, her little fists waving in indignation at being expelled from her warm cocoon. And when she finally settled, skin to skin against me, she quieted as if she recognized my heartbeat. "Hello, little one," I whispered, tears streaming freely now. "I'm your mama, and I'm so sorry your daddy isn't. I'm here." I looked up to find Lorenzo in the doorway, chest heaving as if he'd run the entire distance. His suit was disheveled, his face pale, his eyes wild with an emotion I couldn't name. "You're here," I sobbed. He crossed to us in 3 strides, his hands shaking as they reached for our daughter. The nurses stepped back, giving us space, and Lorenzo carefully gathered our baby into his arms, with a gentleness that contradicted everything he was. "Mio Dio," he breathed, staring at her like she was a miracle he couldn't quite believe in. "She's perfect. Elena, she's absolutely perfect. Isabella," I whispered, the name we'd chosen weeks ago suddenly feeling right. "Isabella Rose Moretti." Lorenzo looked at me then, and I saw tears tracking down his face, the first I'd ever witnessed from him. This man who'd killed without hesitation, who'd destroyed families and empires, who ruled through fear and blood. He was crying over our daughter. "I'm sorry I wasn't here," he said hoarsely. "I was finishing it, ending the last of the threats so she could come into a world where no one would dare touch her, where she'd be safe. You're here now." I reached for his hand. "That's what matters." Isabella chose that moment to open her eyes, dark, like her father's, studying his face with newborn intensity. And I watched Lorenzo fall completely, irrevocably in love. "I swear to you," he whispered to her, "no one will ever hurt you. No one will ever make you afraid. You'll grow up knowing you're loved, protected, cherished, and anyone who tries to harm you will learn why the Moretti name makes grown men tremble." "Lorenzo," I cautioned gently, "I know." He looked at me, a small smile breaking through the tears. "I'll try to be normal, for her. Try to be the father who plays tea party and reads bedtime stories and doesn't solve every problem with violence." "Try is all I ask." He leaned down, pressing a kiss to my forehead, then to Isabella's downy head. "Thank you, for her, for surviving, for being strong enough to do this without me. Ti amo, Elena, more than I have words for. I love you too," I whispered. "Both of you, my monsters and my miracles." Outside the hospital window, dawn was breaking over the city, Lorenzo's city, our city, the place where our daughter would grow up knowing both the beauty and brutality of the world her father ruled. And somehow, cradling our baby between us, I couldn't imagine wanting anything different. This was our life now. Dangerous and beautiful, terrifying and perfect, bound by blood and roses, thorns and all. 6 months later, I woke to the sound of Lorenzo singing, not his usual commanding baritone, but something softer, a lullaby in Italian that his mother used to sing to him. I found him in the nursery, Isabella cradled against his chest, her tiny hand wrapped around his finger as he swayed gently in the pre-dawn darkness. "Ninna nana, ninna o, questo bimbo acilodo." His voice was barely a whisper, tender in a way that still caught me off guard. "Se lo do alla Befana, se lo tiene una settimana." I leaned against the doorframe, my heart aching with how much I loved this moment. This man, this life we'd built from blood and chaos. "She's asleep," I whispered. Lorenzo looked up, his expression softening when he saw me. "I know, but she had a nightmare. Woke up crying, and I couldn't just leave her. You're going to spoil her." "Good." He pressed a kiss to Isabella's dark curls. So much hair for such a tiny baby. "Let her be spoiled by her father's love. The world will be cruel enough to her soon enough." I crossed to them, wrapping my arms around Lorenzo from behind, the 3 of us swaying together in the darkness. Through the window, the estate grounds were peaceful, guards making their rounds, everything exactly as it should be. Marco called. Lorenzo said quietly, still rocking our daughter. The Castellano family wants to meet. They're proposing a formal alliance, marriage contract between Isabella and Castellano's grandson when they come of age. My blood went cold. She's 6 months old, Lorenzo. I know. His jaw tightened. And I told Marco to tell Castellano that if he ever suggests selling my daughter into a political marriage again, I'll forget we're allies and remind him why everyone fears the Moretti name. What did he say? That he respected my position but hoped I'd reconsider for the good of both families. Lorenzo's smile was sharp and humorless. Then I had Marco send him a gift, the deed to a property Castellano's been trying to acquire for years, with a note explaining that this is what cooperation looks like, not bartering children like livestock. I kissed his shoulder, grateful and terrified in equal measure. You can't protect her from everything. Watch me try. He finally placed Isabella back in her crib, tucking her favorite blanket, the one Agnese had embroidered with tiny roses, around her sleeping form. I've already established trust funds in her name across 3 countries. Set up shell corporations she'll inherit, given her options beyond this life if she ever wants them. And if she wants this life? I asked quietly. If she grows up watching you rule this empire and decides that's what she wants too? Lorenzo's expression turned complicated. Pride and fear and love all warring for dominance. Then I'll teach her to be better than me, smarter, more careful, less ruled by emotion. I'll give her every advantage I never had and pray it's enough. We stood together watching Isabella sleep, her little chest rising and falling with perfect rhythm, completely unaware that she'd been born into a world of power and violence and dark beauty. Do you regret it? Lorenzo asked suddenly. This life? What you've become? I thought about the woman I'd been 8 months ago, the waitress working double shifts, worried about rent, dreaming of a simple life with a husband who worked normal hours and came home smelling like office coffee instead of gun smoke and expensive cologne. Then I thought about who I was now. Elena Moretti, wife of the most powerful man in the city, mother to his heir, the woman whose name made people lower their voices and tread carefully. I regret the fall, I said honestly. I regret that Valentina's cruelty is what dragged me into this world. But this? I gestured to the nursery, to Isabella, to Lorenzo. Our family, our life? No, I don't regret this. Even knowing what I've done? What I'll continue to do? I turned to face him fully, taking his scarred hands in mine. Especially knowing. Because you do it all for us, for her. Every terrible thing, every ruthless decision, every body you've buried. It's all so she can sleep peacefully in her crib without fear. So I can walk through our home without looking over my shoulder. That's not something I regret, Lorenzo. That's something I'm grateful for. His kiss was deep and searching, tasting of relief and devotion and promises we'd both learned to keep. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I have something for you, he murmured. From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, not the simple wedding band I wore, but something else entirely. A blood-red ruby surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum that caught the dim light like captured fire. What is this? Your coronation. Lorenzo took my left hand, sliding the ring onto my finger beside my wedding band. You're not just my wife anymore, Elena. You're the queen of this empire. My equal, my partner. And I want everyone to know it. Lorenzo, I do. His voice was fierce with conviction. I need everyone to understand that you're not just something I protect. You're someone who stands beside me, who makes decisions with me, who has as much power in this family as I do. The Castellanos, the other families, even my own men, they need to see you as more than the boss's wife. They need to see you as the woman who survived an assassination attempt and came out stronger. The woman who gave birth to the future of this empire. The woman who turned a monster into something almost human. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'm still learning. Still figuring out how to be this person. So am I. His smile was crooked, vulnerable. Every day I wake up terrified I'll fail you both. That my enemies will find a weakness. That I'll make the wrong call and lose everything. But then I see you, strong, brave, adapting to this world like you were born for it. And I think maybe we'll survive this after all. A cry from the crib interrupted us. Isabella, awake and demanding attention with all the imperious authority of her bloodline. I moved to pick her up, but Lorenzo beat me to it, scooping up our daughter with practiced ease. "Good morning, Principessa. Ready to conquer the day?" Isabella responded by grabbing his nose, her little face scrunched in concentration. "She has your stubbornness," I observed. "She has your strength." Lorenzo looked at me over Isabella's head, his expression so full of love it made my chest ache. "And together we're going to give her a kingdom. Not just of territories and power, but of love, of family, of knowing she's wanted and cherished and protected." "A kingdom of thorns," I murmured, thinking of everything this life entailed. "And roses." Lorenzo shifted Isabella to one arm and pulled me close with the other, the three of us forming our own small world within the empire he'd built. "Never forget the roses, amore mio." Through the window, the sun rose over the estate, painting everything in shades of gold. Guards changed shifts. Agnesa would soon be preparing breakfast. The day would bring meetings and decisions, and all the weight of the world Lorenzo carried on his shoulders. But for this moment, we were just a family. A monster who learned to love. A woman who learned to survive. And a baby girl who would grow up knowing both the darkness and the light. I looked down at the ruby ring on my finger, blood red and beautiful. Just like this life we'd built together. "To the kingdom." "Then," I whispered. Lorenzo's smile was pure dangerous devotion. "To the kingdom, and to the queen who rules my heart." Isabella giggled, oblivious to the weight of legacy and empire settling onto her tiny shoulders. And in that sound, pure, innocent, perfect, I heard our future, dangerous and beautiful. Terrifying and precious, bound by blood and roses, forever and always. They say Elena Moretti was just a waitress who caught a mafia boss's eye. They say she was a victim who became a queen. They say she transformed Lorenzo Moretti from a monster into a man. They're wrong. Elena Moretti was always a queen. She just needed a kingdom dark enough to match her strength. And Lorenzo? He was always a man. He just needed someone worth being human for. And their daughter? Isabella Rose Moretti. She would grow up to make them both look like amateurs. But that's a story for another time.